All right, y'all. I'm back again with another video. And I know you guys used to seeing me, but you can't see me right now. I'm gonna do this a little weird. Uh, I'm gonna get a video without actually seeing my face this time. And at this point, the Pels basically are done. They're done with free agency, and they made a couple moves today. They signed Cedarius and Winyan Gabriel to contracts. Now, the name, when I heard Winyan, I was like, is that the nigga for Boys to Men? And I was like, nah, different name. I never heard of this nigga, but he's a 6'9" power forward, right? And Cedarius was on the team last year when they went to the bubble, if I'm not mistaken. Both young, neither of them can actually shoot, but whatever. So, here's the thing. I think the front office had plans to sign better players and they just couldn't get deals done, or they wanted too much, or they wanted longer term extensions more so than the Pels was willing to pay. But they extended Steven Adams 2 more years, 17 and a half per year, or basically 35 million. So I'm guessing he's a part of their longer term goals because his contract ends, or he'll end right as Zion is up, and he'll be 30. Uh, this is interesting, so far because they haven't re-signed Brandon Ingram, but he is, I'm sure, is coming very soon. Um, Obviously, nothing for Lonzo or Josh Hart, and they're not in a rush because they're just going to let them play out this year, see what they owe them, and go from there. Uh, but here's the thing with this roster, right? So they've signed two wings. Neither really have much playing experience, playing major minutes anyway. Um, Neither of them can shoot, but they're long and athletic. With Cedarius really not being what I would like, he's really no different than Josh Hart as far as his metrics are concerned to me. He's 6'5". Winyan is like 6'9", which is great. You need that size, but you know. So if they're gonna run a rotation now, um, they'll probably play or possibly play um, those guys, with those forward positions to sit Bi or maybe even Zion if they want to be athletic still and kind of run and hit the floor, yeah. But there's no floor spacer with them, so that's interesting. Maybe they opt to play Melly as a stretch five, and then I don't know because Bledsoe can't shoot either. I really don't know. This is funky, but the thing with this team, and it's clear as day, the bulk of the touches are going to Lonzo, Bi, um, and Zion, and to the lesser extent, like a Josh Hart and JJ Redick. But and even with that, the bulk of the touches are going to Bi and Zion. Like, this is straight up a development year. This is straight up a development year. Everything, like, the Pels are going to play and they're going to lose a lot of games, but it's to get the core group ready and to see what they have in zone. And so that's the whole point of this year. They're not concerned necessarily with making the playoffs. If they do, great, but they want to see what they could get out of them and push those guys as far as they can go, which is cool. But I wish we would have known this information prior so we could have tempered expectation. And I know people were sitting here like, oh, we finna go try to get Miles Turner. I was one of those guys too. We're gonna go try to get all these different guys, and then you trade Drew Holiday, and all you get is Eric Bledsoe and George Hill and those picks. And to me, it's just kind of like, okay, I get it. I've heard next year's draft is heavy at forward, yada yada yada. But I put it like this. At least if they would have said, "Hey, we're, this will be a development year," then you'd sit there and be like, "Okay, we're just gonna give Boca the touches to the core, and we're gonna just see where it goes. We're gonna just try to push them to get them as all-star ready as possible, so that the next year it will be our year because it's clearly not gonna be this year." And I mean, let's be honest, the competition in the West has improved dramatically. They're not going to get into the playoffs um, probably this year unless they go to like one of those extra seeds, the ninth or the 10th, and get a seeding game and they can win 2 games against, whoever the 7th, 8th seed is. Um, it's it's cool though. Remember, I was telling you guys well before anybody else did that you're gonna have to wait and watch what they do with the roster. I was telling you guys back in August this, and I said what they decide to do with the roster is gonna tell you a lot. It's gonna tell you a lot. And with your starting five is probably gonna be obviously the core, but and the core and Adams, but shooting guard is the question to me. And I could see that being a fluid spot where they put whoever is necessary for the matchup. Like in my other video, I said, if they need more of the spacing, they might put JJ there to start some games. If they need um, if they need like the defense, they'll put Josh Hart there. But if they need like someone to kind of be an overall offensive threat and a secondary ball handler so they can move some pieces around or have a little bit more versatility here, I could see them putting all. And in some cases, I could see them playing Bledsoe there, putting Nault in as the backup point guard when Lonzo has to sit in a rotation. And you're playing like kind of like last year where you have like a defensive backcourt. But a lot of pressure is going to be on these guys. It's going to be on Bi and Zion to try to make something happen, you know, and it's going to be on them plus Lonzo and stuff to make their shots. Like the team is only going to go as far as those guys carry. It really is this year, and I don't think I don't think they're wrong for taking that approach. I just think, damn, we could have got some better pieces to compete with. And it sucks, but this is again where that Kieran Lewis draft is gonna hurt us. Now, I don't project this winning more than 34 games. Now, keep in mind, 72 game season. That's 10 less games to operate with. 34 is generous. 34 is generous. Here's why I say 34. And it's funny because they just posted the estimated win totals of the teams, and they had the Pels at 35 and a half. So they were looking right at the same area. And the best teams they had, like, were the Bucks getting 49 wins and the Lakers getting 48. Okay? But hear me out. Can that team win 34? I absolutely think so. Off the strength of Lonzo making an improvement, a jump, Bi making a jump, and Zion making a jump. I'm going to go ahead and predict that all three make a jump. And that the sum of their trio, those parts, is greater than them individually, and that they carry them to more wins. I'm going to start there. Yes, I'm going to take that route. Number one. Number two, I'm going to have faith in Stan Van Gundy. I'm going to predict that the team becomes one of the better defensive teams in the league. That means, yes, BI and Zion have upped their defensive intensity and level and can now defend multiple positions effectively without being compromised. If those two things for sure happen, I don't think 34 games or 35 games even is out of the question. Here's the other part. Zion was drafted to be this transcendent player. He was hurt. He was unhealthy. He had the weight issues last year. Zion has clearly lost somewhere in the realm of like probably 20 to 35 pounds. Easy. If he's lost that much, he may be 260, 255. He's going to be much faster. He's going to be much more available. He's going to be able to do a lot more. I don't see how he doesn't have a Luka year where he just makes this massive jump if he's this transcendent player. Luka went from being, okay, he is definitely who they thought he was as far as his talent level, and then he's competing for an MVP. I could totally see this being the year where Zion just like, okay, MVP level. BI, the main knock on BI was the playmaking and the defense. BI, for all intents and purposes, does not have to necessarily go up to 27, 28 a game. But for him, the primary thing that would take his game to the next level and make sure his imprint is on the game greater than it is the defensive intensity and the playmaking. Now, that was the problem that a lot of people had with BI. His scoring does not affect winning. I'm going to say it again. His scoring does not affect winning. What I mean by that is there is Steph Curry, KD, that when they put their foot on the floor, every shot for them seems to do more damage than you would think. A Steph Curry, Durant 45 points would be different than a BI 45 points. Because when BI got his, it seemed like they just barely compete. But when KD and Steph are getting it, it's oppressive as fuck. You really don't have like you're just sitting there like, God damn. You know, like this motherfucker's great. When BI's getting those kind of points, it's like, okay, yeah, but y'all still losing. Y'all behind. You know. And you may say, okay, well, the team wasn't all that good. Well, the starters were good for the most part last year. So it really can't be that. Even without Zion, they were still good. But his impact, his scoring doesn't have that KD to it. You know what I'm saying? And defensively, he gave up as much or close to as much as he could score. So I think for him, even if he only stayed at 23 points a game, but his defense and playmaking improved massively, that's a win for him as a player. He becomes much more threatening. So I think the growth for him, that's going to be the aim, or that's where they're pushing him this year. I'm going to see a whole lot more BI on the ball. I'm going to see a whole lot more passing out of him. And I expect to see a whole lot more defense. Now, even defensively with these two guys, Zion and BI, I don't expect them to be like transcendent defenders. But I do expect them to sit there, be at least average or above average. If they're average, that's a win. Because they were horrible last year. Now, Lonzo Ball, ZO2, my man. Lonzo is the wild card in all this. I'm gonna go out and put my head out on a platter and put myself at risk by saying this, but I'm predicting Lonzo to have a breakout year. Now, here's how I imagine Lonzo to trend this year. I think getting used to the offense and stuff is going to stifle his points in the beginning. I'm going to give him like 13, 14 points per game um, in like the first month or two. Within like that month and a half to 2 to 3 month range, I think he's going to get comfortable. And because they're not probably not going to have preseason, so I'm not sure how much he's going to get to work on it or experiment with his moves and his skills he's developed in an actual NBA game. Granted, we know that he had the practice run with Ben Simmons, but we don't know if he's been having more practice runs because he's with Clutch Sports now. I think after that time, he's going to be like, okay, I played like 20, 25 games. I know what works for me. I know what I feel comfortable with. It's go time. So around the time of February-ish to March, I expect Lonzo to have that similar. Okay, you guys remember this past season where from like December on to like March, he was a monster. I expect that same thing here, but at a higher level. So, the first couple months, he'd be like 13, 14 a game. I expect 18 and 19 from Lonzo from the rest of the year after that point, offensively. And let me tell you why. After watching how BI operated offensively and some of the moves uh, Lonzo was picking up, Lonzo was learning some of the offensive skills that BI did. With his size and his matchups against a lot of opponents, especially smaller guards, he should be able to shoot over them. No problem. And I think with that comfort and the footwork especially, I think it's going to make him an absolute stud. I hear me out. I think he's going to take such a massive boost from offensive scoring that Stan is going to have to make a decision. I think he is going to put a cog. It's a good cog, but he's going to put a cog in the Pels plans because now they're going to have to decide who to run the ball through. And obviously, in transition, give the ball to Zoe. Get where the hell you're supposed to be. Let Zoe play make. But if Lonzo is scoring 17 to 18 a game, very efficiently, I might add, and let's just say he's also, because I predict him to be around a 40% three-point shooter this year, Stan is going to have to look at this team and say, okay, we got Lonzo who's scoring, and we got BI who's scoring and he's playmaking. He's going to have to make a decision whose hand the ball's going to have to stick with. And that is going to tell us everything we need to know about the future for Lonzo Ball and the Pelicans. Because if they don't give Lonzo the ball after he starts breaking out, he's not going to stay around. They're going to use him as a trade chip. Because they're going to have to pay too much money. So, for me anyway, my expectation, they're going to finish the season. Lonzo's going to finish on a high note. BI and Zion are going to, be maybe all-stars, French all-stars. They're going to all take jumps this year, and they might make the play-in game. And then anything is off. It depends on who's in those last two seeds if they make the playoffs. But the next year, off season, I predict a sign and trade for Lonzo Ball. They're going to sign him and move him. And I believe, listen to me, I believe that they're going to say we could get another player who could do some of what Lonzo could do. and not have to pay him as much, and still keep Bi and Zion because they're different. You're not gonna find scores like Bi. You might say, what about Paul George like players? You probably could find Paul George, but Paul George still don't have like Bi's length is ridiculous. 6'9", he's got like a 7'2" wingspan. Like that's fucking ridiculous. You're not gonna find that. You're not gonna find baby KD. Zion, obviously, for obvious reasons, you're not gonna find another Zion. But Zion's your number one pick. He's expected to have the highest ceiling. So I see a sign and trade next offseason for Zoe, which is fine. It'll probably be the best thing for Zoe. And that's where I see the season going. Um, I'm not sure if they make the playoffs because there's too many moving parts, and we'll just have to see where everything falls. But as of right now, the whole point of this year is to develop these guys, mainly to see what you have in them, and if you got what you want, you push them to be the best that they can be. But that's just me. So we'll see. But like I said, I really don't trust that this front office is going to do right by both Zoe, Bi, and Zion. I think they're going to just pick a duo and say, fuck it. So it is what it is. It's your boy Jay Strokes. Peace.